Good evening, and welcome back to our mental health series here at Living Waters Lutheran Church. We're very excited to have Elissa Crowley with us here tonight from Turning Point, Inc. here in McHenry County, domestic violence shelter and related services. She will be talking tonight about cyberbullying and digital safety. As always, if you have questions, you can comment them in this live video. You can chat them to us privately if you're worried about cybersecurity. As well, if you're watching this at a later date, which I know many of you do, you can always shoot me an email or comment. We have the alerts set up that they will show up in our email as well. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Elissa.
Thank you guys so much for having me again tonight. I was here back all the way in February to talk about teen dating violence, and now I'm back again to talk about digital safety, especially related to children and teens. So we will jump into it a little bit here. Go down, not up. All right, so just a little reminder, I am from Turning Point, which is the only domestic violence agency here in McHenry County. And as you'll see as I talk tonight, definitely digital safety does go hand in hand with unhealthy and toxic relationships and bullying and abuse. So that's kind of how it ties into the work we do. My team, I have two staff, Alexis and Tasha, who actually go out to the schools and teach kids all the way down to preschool about friendships and bullying and healthy relationships. So this is kind of a glimpse into what we do out in the schools as well. So here's some of the topics we're going to go over tonight. I have a lot kind of put into this little time we have, and I'm more than willing, if any of these things are topics, as Pastor Zach mentioned, that you have questions on, please reach out or reach out to me at a later date as well. So let's just go over a little reminder about bullying to start. I think a lot of us have a general idea about what it is, but this is one of my favorite definitions to really encapsulate what bullying is. So bullying is when a person or group repeatedly or intentionally uses or abuses their power to intimidate, hurt, put down, or damage someone else. So we have to remember, and I always stress this with kids, for some of you guys that don't know, I didn't mention this yet, my work before Turning Point was 10 years in after school and day camp programming. So if you can imagine, I've heard the word I'm being bullied a lot. And I always would ask the kids, like, does it keep happening? What are they doing? What does it look like? And this is really when we're gonna see it. It's gonna happen over and over again, and it's then intentional hurt and putting down someone. We also have to remember that it can be with a person or a group. So sometimes we see one person bullying one person, or we see a group of kids, which is very common, bullying or picking on one person, as we'll talk about tonight. It also talks about that intimidation, that hurt, that putting down and damaging someone else. So all those little pieces in there. There's also a lot of different types of bullying. We're really going to focus on cyberbullying tonight, but just know that there are a lot of different types and how this happens. I've been out of school for a while now, and cyberbullying didn't exist when I was in school, really. It was just kind of starting. So the idea of how we're getting into this is definitely making it not just being stopped at school. We're seeing it all the time. It's not just once you go home, the bullying is over. But we're going to see physical bullying, as we talked about all the time. That one's a little bit hard, or a little bit easier for teachers, parents to kind of witness, experience. We might see injuries or kids getting hurt. Physical bullying is also going to be that piece where maybe I steal someone's paper and I rip it up, or I damage their backpack, or I damage their property. We want to put that in that physical bullying category as well. As someone who's used to work in schools, I saw this all the time when kids would get mad at another kid and they'd rip their paper or destroy their project. Verbal bullying is going to be probably the most common form of bullying. So physical is very easy to see. Verbal is definitely harder to see. We kind of see the after effects more of someone being their self-esteem or their self-worth put down, teasing, name-calling, any of those pieces there. Then we're going to see social bullying, which I call this the friendship bullying. I think we all probably can look back in our heads at a time in our lives where we thought someone was a good friend, and then they ended up being a toxic person. We're maybe sharing things we thought were personal and private with other people, spreading rumors about us. This is a very sneaky form of bullying, and unfortunately, it's something that we don't see right away. It might be a few weeks or a few months into being friends with someone that we realize they don't have our best interests in mind. And then lastly, cyberbullying, which we're going to dive into a little more. But as you guys can probably imagine, this verbal and social friendship bullying really plays into cyberbullying. We're going to see those types of bullying put in on online. So anything to do with digital technology. So we're talking about texting, commenting on things, computer, pretty much anytime we have that tech in use, that's when we're going to have those types of cyberbullying. So I have this short video here, and I might need you to, it's very interesting. This talks about how online has become kind of this epidemic. I'm not here to just terrify you that the internet is scary. That's not my job tonight. But it is just to show us how this does kind of trickle in. So this is about a 4-minute video, so we're going to start this up, and then we'll dive into some things after.
A new virus, unlike any other, has infiltrated schools through social media. A pandemic quickly spreading around the world. Its origin is yet to be known. However, individuals with a history of negative and violent home environments are often more susceptible to contraction. This girl has been infected. She is now host to the virus and risks spreading it to anyone. Every post the host makes and every text she sends exposes the virus to multiple people instantly. It is highly contagious and no one is immune. But some individuals may suffer more greatly from its side effects. The virus has chosen its victim. Carriers of the virus can be the least suspected of people and may even be unaware of their own infection. No one, not even this girl's parents and teachers, are aware that she is carrying such a deadly disease. Strains of this illness can be transferred by phone, email, and social media. Through wireless and satellite transmission, it can reach you at home, at school, or anywhere. The effects of the virus can take hours or days before getting out of control and causing serious damage to its victims. The virus feeds on those who are vulnerable to feeling emotions of hate, anger, envy, insecurity, and peer pressure. The effects have proven severe and could cause emotional scarring, creating long-term symptoms of depression and, in some cases, suicide. But there is a way to fight against it. Fight the virus. You can put a stop to it. In support of Pink Shirt Day, join the battle against bullying. Write in pink to prevent further outbreaks of this pandemic. Protect yourself and report cases of the cyberbullying virus.
I'm gonna go to the next one. Yeah, didn't want me to do it after that. Perfect, thank you. Awesome. So that video, is definitely has a dark tone to it. One of my staff found it, but she really mentioned to me, as I said, I didn't grow up with social media in school, and she mentioned to me how similar this was to her time in middle and high school, and how quickly these things could spread. Now, as you could probably tell from the video, it's a little dated with the phone technology, but I think the message is very similar of these things can happen so quickly, and like a virus, they spread very quickly, and people don't always realize they're being affected or they're being part of it. So a lot of people, talk to me about how is cyberbullying different? And here's some of the main things that I see. One, with cyberbullying, you can remain anonymous. You're anonymous on the internet. You're whoever you want to be. So that gives, someone this idea to be whoever they want and maybe act differently than they would in person. When I do this presentation on site for some of our parenting groups, we watch a little bit of a longer video, and it's all about the disinhibition effect on the internet. And it's this very long technical study about how the internet pretty much changes the way we are and how we perceive ourselves online. So cyberbullying can happen anytime, anywhere. As you guys could see in that video, it wasn't just when I'm at school this was happening. It was when she got home. It was once, in the middle of the night. It kept going on and on. It wasn't just this stopping piece. During the pandemic, I did a lot of presentations over Zoom, and a lot of the kids shared with me that the bullying had actually gotten worse during their time at home instead of better. And in my head, I thought back to my 90s childhood that, if I was being bullied, it would stop because I'm at home. No one can reach me there. But because of the fact that all this technology is here, we were able to reach out. They were able to be bullied still. And especially when you don't see someone day to day, they were really able to make up these stories and these scenarios that these kids were in. The cyberbullying has definitely gotten worse, and the numbers in that video showed 42%. I think we're quite a bit higher in the 50s now, and then actually most adults, I believe it is 62% of adults have witnessed or experienced cyberbullying as well. So even though I am focusing on children and teens, we all know and we've all seen this happen within the adult world as well. Cyberbullying instances can go viral. So as it showed in that video, it's very quick where, I think back to one rumor could have been spread and I tell one other person and then slowly it kind of keeps growing. When it's online, I can send that one rumor to as many people as I want. I can send it to 300 people all at one time, and that situation can go viral much quicker. We've all seen viral videos as well on TikTok or whatever where like positive viral things happen, but we know that negative viral things can happen very quickly. And the last one is that there's a lot less remorse online. So, I share that if someone's right next to me and I make fun of them and I call them a name, I see their reaction, I see their emotions, I might see that they're sad or upset. But if I tell them online, I don't see that reaction. I don't know what I did necessarily to that person. And so I can feel less bad about it because I didn't see that reaction. So as I said, I'm going to talk about the negative effects of online, but also the positive. So let's start with the negative. So negative effects with social media. It can be very distracting, especially for kids. They can get really sucked into that digital world. It's an easy escape or disassociation. As I'll talk about in the next one, sometimes we need a minute to kind of check out of everything that's going on, especially with the way the world is right now. But are we using it too much as a crutch? Are we really just diving into that world and not dealing with everything out in this non-digital world? We can get imposter syndrome, pretend to be someone we're not online. We can start acting like someone else. We've seen it especially in the adult world, that idea of putting our best face out there. So we're only putting this good perception of maybe our family, our relationship, and maybe behind closed doors there's a lot more going on. It also can cause sleep disruption. So as we know from the studies around blue light, if we're sitting there and we're on our bright phone in our bedroom and we're scrolling through, it can cause sleep disruptions, or maybe it's not falling asleep right away. There's a lot of cyberbullying, as we're talking about tonight. Rumors can be spread quickly, as well as fake news, which we've all seen over the last couple years, the way that one story can really get bigger. I always share with groups when I do this presentation that my mom is in her 60s, and she'll share with me, she goes, Elissa, I saw this thing the other day, and she goes, okay, hold on, it was on Facebook, but I had 2 other sources, and we always joke that she has to have a few sources with her Facebook news, because not everything on Facebook is true. We also see unrealistic views of other people's lives. So that other hand of the imposter syndrome. So maybe I see these people post this beautiful life online, and if we think about celebrities, for instance, they have everything they need. They have the mansions, the cars, everything. And me looking at that can go, wow, I'm slacking. I need to have all the things they do, when that's really an unrealistic view of that person's life. We also might feel a lot of peer pressure from cyberbullying. So the other kind of piece of this cyber situation and cyberbullying is it's very easy to join in, as they showed in that video, where, maybe somebody said something mean online, and maybe normally I wouldn't join into that, but I see all these other people doing it, and I'm like, oh, I better say something bad about this person too. And once again, if there's not that remorse or that reaction, it's really easy to jump into that situation. Peer pressure also can get into some of the pieces we'll talk about with, when we're getting into a relationship, and maybe that's cyber abuse or forcing or pressuring people into things. So peer pressure is definitely a big part of this. And then lastly, that feeling of being left out. I had a girl a few years ago when I was presenting this online. She said, I hate when I see my friends post on Snapchat or Instagram, they're all together and they didn't invite me or ask me to go along. She goes, it makes me feel really left out. And so when we see these things, it's right there in our face, and it's hard to not feel like we missed out on something. But as I said, there's a lot of positive things when it comes to social media too. I'm a big fan of technology. I like playing video games, and I like going online, and I definitely do scroll through TikTok too much sometimes. And there's a lot of good things with online too. So one, support. We've seen so many kids, especially here in the rural communities, find a support system. When we talk about LGBTQIA+ students, sometimes they might not have somebody they can reach out to directly in their school or group. So finding a group online or finding someone comfortable they can talk to can be a really safe, great space for them. We also can feel this need to share, and maybe more comfortably. There might be something where maybe a family member of mine is sick, and to say those words out loud to my friends right here might be really hard, but maybe posting it online and saying, my grandma's not doing well, and then getting that support online can feel really good if I couldn't necessarily say those words out loud. It also makes us feel less alone. As I said, people can find connections or groups online. I'll talk about some of those platforms in a minute here, and really feel a connection to some other group, especially over the pandemic. I know I definitely reached out through different social media to feel like I was connected to a group or space. I know with churches, we're doing online situations now where people can stream in and view this, and this really helps us feel connected to a community. Social media trends can promote change. If we remember a few years back now, there was the Ice Bucket Challenge where everyone felt like they were doing something good for a general cause. We've seen a lot of that, especially with the support with some of the social changes lately too. Personal expression. I know somebody who, they love to share their photography online, and they love to be able to share that expression and what they're into and have other people like that. Find information. I think this is something we kind of forget about. What was it, only 15 years ago, I had to have a paper map in my car to get anywhere, and now I can just Google where I want to go, and it takes me there. And I think that this idea of our worlds were so much smaller for so long, and now we can simply search, Egypt, and I can go and walk around the pyramids if I want to. So this idea that we can really have a global view of the world. And with expanding worldview, it goes right along with that finding information. And then, as I mentioned already, finding a community for LGBTQIA youth, questioning youth that just want to find some resources. There's a lot more out there. And then unwinding after a long day. There is nothing wrong with putting on your favorite show or playing video games or scrolling through your phone after a long day when you need a minute to yourself. So I don't know how many people are streaming in, but I always like to ask the question about what social media sites do people use daily, or what are some of their favorite ones, or if you just want to share one of the ones you're on, and then we'll jump into some of our social media sites that we kind of highlight them for everyone too.
For me, looking at the ones you have up there, because I do Facebook. Xbox Live, does that count as social media?
It does, yeah.
Then
you're
yes,
part of the community.
I use that pretty often. So yeah, if anyone's looking to lose a game of NHL, let me know.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Good call on calling these out of the icons. I always like to ask the kids, do you know all of them? And they usually do. For me, myself, I'm definitely an Instagram user still. And then, as I mentioned, I went down the hole during the pandemic with TikTok and have not got out of it yet. But yeah, any video game where you're playing with other people can be considered social media. So I like to break down some of these social media sites, especially for parents, because there are so many that sometimes we're like, wait, what site are you on? What are you using? What are you doing? So we kind of all know the big three. We know Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Those ones have been around for a while. I like to remind people a little bit about each one. You know, Facebook is going to be friends, family. Now we have some reels and some businesses on there. Twitter is definitely the most unhinged when it comes to social media sites. So Twitter is definitely something that, like, there aren't any parental filters. People are saying a lot of things. It's not very monitored, which can be very exciting for people, but that's definitely one that's a little more wild. And then Instagram really started out as a photo sharing site. I know I love to share pictures of, like, my garden and my trips, things like that on there. And then some people, there started to becoming reels and videos, and it's definitely expanded from there. Now, Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same company now, so the chat feature is in there. And so a lot of people do use that chat. I don't know if you guys have kept up in the news, but we did just realize that chat is not private. So something I like to remind people is that those things are not private. And when it comes to social media and things like that, I'll get into a little bit of safety, but definitely kind of know your privacy levels and what you're agreeing to with any of these sites. Some of the video-focused ones that I already touched on is YouTube is still very popular, and why I like to highlight this one is because there's a feature called YouTube Kids, and I have a lot of parents tell me, well, they're on YouTube Kids, they're safe. And unfortunately, there's these people on the internet that just like to ruin everything. And so they post videos on YouTube Kids with these hashtags or these things that are not safe for kids. So I always like to remind parents, have a few videos going, but when it gets, just be checking in on there. I know it's great to use YouTube when you're getting ready to cook dinner, things like that. But just kind of check in on what they're watching, because they can go down a weird rabbit hole sometimes on there. TikTok does not have any parental settings. It does say it's supposed to be 16 plus right now. As we know, kids are going to get on sites if they want to or not. We just have to kind of monitor and be careful of what sites they're jumping on. But there definitely are things on the For You page that are not appropriate. There may be swearing, songs, things like that. So not really a great site for those kind of, once we get to 8th grade and up, depending on the maturity level of our kiddos, we can always kind of take a look at it then. Snapchat is still very popular. It kind of died off for a minute, and then it got popular again. Something I like to mention to people is that Snapchat came out as this disappearing video service when it came out a while ago. Those videos don't actually disappear, and so a lot of people think if I send this video and it disappears, no one will ever see it again. But there's actually on the Snapchat website, you can actually download all of your history, all of your videos, all your pictures. That information is out there, and unfortunately, anything we send out in the internet, as I'll talk about, we can't take back, and it is out there once it's out there. A lot of people were using Snapchat for a while, like I said, for that feature. So I like to tell people that those things don't just disappear. The other thing with Snapchat is if you're not set to private and you have your Snap Maps public, this is what it looks like on the screen here, where people can see where you are, what you're up to. Some people can have it set to just friends. Just really know what you're comfortable with. I personally don't like to use anything that gives a GPS for someone to know where I am. The people that need to know where I am, and don't need to track me through digital reasons. But this is definitely something when people don't have privacy settings put on and things are public, people can jump in and see those things. Couple other ones, as Pastor Zach mentioned, that he's on Xbox Live. That is definitely considered a social media site because we are live streaming, talking, interacting with other people. So that's why we fall under social media. So Xbox and Nintendo Switch, those are ones that if we're actively playing, I definitely talk to a lot of elementary school and middle schoolers, and they say, I've heard some horrible things on Xbox Live, or people have said some really mean things to me in the chat. So this is definitely a place where we see some of that cyberbullying or that negative situations happening as well. And then Roadblocks is super popular. When I was doing youth programming, the kids loved this site, and I know it's still pretty popular today. Roadblocks, the really cool thing about it is you actually get to create video games on there, and then you can play any of them. So you can play, if I create a video game, you guys can go on there and play my video game. And it can be really exciting and fun. It's very similar to Minecraft with the way it looks. It's very boxy. But there's some of the most popular games on there are Meep City, where you play kind of like a Sim City kind of piece, or the Jailbreak one, where you are a prisoner who breaks out of jail, which can't always be a good message that we're sending. So definitely with Roadblocks, it is a really cool site, but to be careful with how that works. And with Roadblocks, there is a chat feature, so I have had a few kids come in and tell me that someone's been trying to message them that they're not comfortable with, so knowing that that is a feature on there. And then some new and trending social media sites that I like to highlight are Discord and Twitch. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with it, and some of you are sitting there like, I have never heard of these things. So Discord is kind of a mix of a lot of different social media sites. If you can imagine kind of original Facebook, where you can only see your friends, but then categorizing it kind of like Reddit, where they're in these subcategories of, in my friend group, maybe we're talking about our next vacation. Maybe we have a little thread talking about our pets or our kids. So it's kind of categorized in these different groups. You can have it on private or public. Most of the Discords that I've been a part of have been more like private ones with just my friends. But you can join public ones. There's some great ones on there for LGBTQIA+ youth to join and kind of talk to others that are going through similar experiences with them. Some of the things to be warned about with Discord is there is a chat feature and a call feature. So within Discord, you can chat and call somebody without a phone plan. For parents, if your kid is chatting with someone through text messages and you said, I really don't want you to talk to this person, and then you've been monitoring the text messages and they haven't been texting with anybody, but you can tell that they're still talking to them, they're most likely chatting with them through other forms like the WhatsApp app or through Discord or through Instagram Messenger, because those are ways that aren't going to show up on your phone bill. So knowing that there's other ways to talk to people even when we're not supposed to. With Discord, too, we have to be careful with all these social media sites to not share private information, which we're going to highlight in just a minute. And then Twitch is kind of a new form of YouTube, except it's live. So you watch people playing video games or doing different things like that, mostly playing video games. It can be so much fun for kids to watch people play their favorite video game, get some tips, get some things like that. But there are some live modes on Twitch where some people get into some risque behavior, so just know when they are on Twitch to make sure they're watching the kind of videos that you feel comfortable with them watching. I've done a live trivia night on Twitch. It's very cool, very interactive. There's a chat feature. Very interesting, but definitely kind of new ones that we're looking out at. And then I got a couple more here for you. So chat-based, some of you guys probably have heard of Omegle or Omegle. It was popular a few years ago, and then it came back. Their tagline is literally talk to strangers. It is a video chat feature where you talk to strangers. If you can imagine, this is not really a good scenario to set your kids up in or your teens where they're talking to people you don't know. But kids are going to do it anyways sometimes. They might get into this, so just reminding them what to share with strangers and that if they're feeling uncomfortable that they need to talk to you. I always tell parents, if your kid walks up to you and says, oh, I was on Omegle and I saw this horrible thing, the first thing is not, oh my gosh, why were you on there? But okay, let's talk through this, what happened? And then be like, okay, well, why were you on there? And then WhatsApp, I know a lot of my friends use it. I know I use it for my friends that live outside of the United States. It's a free messaging service. But on here, we always have to be careful. I've had a few like stranger spam messages on mine recently, so be careful who's contacting us. And then because I'm a domestic violence agency, I have to highlight a little bit about teens and the cyber world. Just know that this is definitely, cyber abuse is something that we're seeing in all walks of life when it comes to adults and teens. But teens, of course, are going to be on their digital safety or their digital apps more, things like that. So some things we're seeing is checking in constantly, the requirement to FaceTime, the requirement of sharing location, that if I share my location, it's just to make sure you're safe. We're seeing a forced or pressuring to send risky photos between each other, and well, if they're doing it, you should do it. We're seeing some photo editing too. People feel this pressure to look a certain way, so they're editing their pictures before they post them. Teens just overall, and I know myself even, are connected 24/7, so we're not taking that social break to refill our battery. We're not taking that time for ourselves, which can be really draining. There's also a lot of pressure to be in group text, and there might be a group text where 5 of your best friends are in it, but then there's another group text with only 4 people talking about that 5th person and how they're annoyed with them. So this can be very messy with the group text world. And then a lot of teens that I talk to now say, if I share my password, that equals trust in my relationship. I have to share my password with my partner because it shows I'm not hiding anything. And when we go out to the schools, we really talk to the kids about if that trust is there or you're working on that trust, you shouldn't have to need that password because you already trust your partner. But that's a really hard conversation to kind of get through to teens who this is what they focus on and this is what they think is normal. So we're definitely working on that when we're out at the schools, but just some highlights of what's kind of going on in that teen world. And then with that too, anytime we're talking about digital safety, I always want to highlight a little bit about digital abuse. This is something that we're always keeping an eye on. Myself as the training coordinator at Turning Point, I'm always focusing on how we can get our staff the best knowledge they have about digital technology. We did have a Lake in the Hills police officer come out recently and give us a little knowledge about some things, so I thought I'd share some of that with you all. As I said, there's that checking in, the FaceTime, the constant calls, that requirement of always being around. I had somebody tell me that they had to call with the hour every hour and FaceTime to prove they were where they said they were. Forcing partners to send pictures, as I said, those risky pictures that they're not comfortable with. Connected 24/7, sharing passwords, sharing locations. There's the new Apple AirTags, which as you see on the screen here where it has military time, that's what pops on your phone if you have an Apple AirTag next to you. It warns you that there's an unrecognized device, but that can take up to 24 hours to pop up on there, so it doesn't pop up right away. I have had a few people had Apple AirTags on them recently, so it's definitely something that we're keeping an eye on. Digital stalking through social media, which is probably the most common thing we're gonna see in this field. And then using the iCloud or apps, I've had people come to me and they're like, I don't know how they know where I am. I've changed my password. I have my locations off. I have everything off. But this person was still logged into their email or somehow connected through the iCloud or their Gmail account. So just knowing to really keep an eye on that. And then unfortunately, there's a lot of stalking apps and different things you can download on your phones or on your partner's phone to keep track of them. So these are things we're always keeping an eye on. I have the snap maps up there again because that's a way people are seeing where their locations are, but just knowing that we really have to be mindful of what we're sharing out. All right, I have one more video, and then we're gonna say, how do we be safe with all of these things? For you guys, amaze.org is a great website when it comes to healthy relationships, early sex education advice for kids, being safe online, gender identity, all these things. It's a great website, a great resource that I highly recommend checking out if you're looking to have some of those conversations. But this is just a good video to show your kiddos, and I wanted to share it with you all of how to be safe on the internet.
Love and kisses from... Oh, it's on! I'm sorry, guys. I know I've told you I'd share everything with you, but this letter is really, really private. Okay. Da-da-da. Now it's safe in my top secret, secretive box. The internet is a great place to do research for school. Share pictures with friends, play video games, or check out the latest trending videos. But it's important to remember that there are billions of people who access the internet, and not everyone has good intentions when doing so. You should think carefully before you share personal information, pictures, or videos on the internet, even if you think it is private. Nothing on the internet is completely private. It's a good rule of thumb not to put up anything that could embarrass you later. If you wouldn't want your grandmother to see it, then don't post it. And don't share private information with people you don't know. Trust your instincts. If someone approaches you online and makes you feel uncomfortable or in danger, stop communication with them immediately. And tell a parent or another trusted adult. It's best not to meet in person someone you've only met online, even if you've been communicating with them for a long time. They may not be who they have told you they are, and it could be dangerous. If you do decide to meet someone from online, it's best to meet them in a public place and to not go alone. Always take a friend along just to be safe, and let someone else know exactly where you are going and who you are going to meet. Bullying someone online, through email, social media, text messaging, or any other website or app is called cyberbullying and is still a form of bullying. It's often better to block, delete, or try to ignore bullying messages than to respond to them. If that doesn't work, getting help from a parent, school counselor, or another trusted adult might be a good idea. That's especially true if the cyberbullying contains threats. Remember to always keep your personal information private. Check your privacy settings to make sure that only your friends can see what you post. And never, ever share your passwords with anyone else. The internet could be a wonderful place to explore. Just remember to stay safe while doing it. Oh, what was it? My dog's birthday. Shoot, okay, that didn't work. Oh, I know. Last 4 digits of my cell number. Okay, that wasn't it. That might take a while. Till next time, don't forget to visit me at amaze.org or go to my YouTube channel to watch more. Bye!
All right, so that's a great starting point to just how to protect ourselves online in general. As I said, I love these videos. We show a lot of these out in the community for different things, including the cyberbullying one. So a couple ways that we can protect ourselves online. First of all, I always tell everybody to be your own person online. A lot of people, as I said at the beginning, get caught up with this image or this idea of who they are on the internet. Just be yourself online. Treat people like you would in person. Be nice online, as I just said. Treat people how you'd like to be treated, but also do that when you don't always see their initial reaction. Think about what you post before you post it. A lot of times we might be angry or upset and we post something without really thinking, and then we walk away. So we don't really see what we did or how that kind of affected the online world. Passwords are private. I cannot stress this enough. As I said, I have this debate every time I'm out in a high school, but those are just for you. I have probably a million horror stories of someone sharing a password to a friend or an intimate partner and that really biting them one day with either that person doing bad things to them, posting things on their page, all these different pieces. So really keep those private. I tell parents that, you know, it's fine for you to ask the kids for their passwords. I think that that's perfectly okay. Some parents I mentioned, like the kid can put them all in a book so that they're all in a little notebook in case you need to use them, but you kind of remind them that these are there if I need to, or I feel like you might be unsafe, or I need to check on something. But I always tell kids that's a person you can share your passwords with. Read between the lines. So a lot of times when we start a conversation online, we don't always have this idea that it's going to go bad or that person has kind of negative pieces that they're going to maybe wrap us up in. We might think that this person generally wants to be our friend, and then all of a sudden we quickly realize that either A, they want to kind of link us romantically, they want to tell us things that aren't okay, and then all of a sudden we realize we're in that conversation and we really have to pull back. This seems obvious, but it's always something I have to remind people. Don't talk about sex with strangers on the internet, or don't talk about anything that makes you feel icky or uncomfortable. There is a great website called cybertipline.com. I've had to use this with clients before. If someone's starting to talk to you about these things, especially when you're underage, you can always involve the police or do this. If you do fill out something on CyberTipline with this person's information, though, it does file a police report, so either way it kind of contacts the police. But this is a really good step if that person is not leaving you alone and it's coming to this point. As I said in the video, avoiding those in-person meetings, but it's really exciting to meet people online sometimes too, especially if we're using online dating or these groups or forums to meet new people. So if you're gonna do it smartly. Tell your parent or tell somebody you feel safe to tell, bring a friend, meet in public. This might be a situation where I would turn my location on and share it with somebody so that they know I'm safe while I'm with them. Be smart while using our smartphones. Please go into your settings after this is done today and look at what you're sharing, what you're putting out there. Look at your apps. Are you sharing your location with every app? Is your app kind of collecting other data you didn't know about? Like really making sure that wherever is on our phone, we have that protected. We're using those different pieces. Keep passwords on your phone, keep things locked. Don't use the same password for everything. Write the passwords down and keep those in a place that no one else knows about. There's just a lot of little things to really keep us safe. And digital technology is amazing and great, and having my phone with me and knowing what I can do, but at the same time, that can cause some dangerous pieces too. And then lastly, don't measure your life based on what other people post. As I mentioned earlier, there's so many people that are putting their best face forward out there online and acting like their life is perfect, and that might not be what actually is happening. So don't start measuring your life based on what they're doing. And the big things to remember is if you're dealing with any of these things, cyberbullying, abuse, any piece online, you're going to want to ignore them first. It's not great to try to respond back or try to argue with that person. That's what they want. Report. It's very easy to report on almost every social media site now. It's a quick Google search, like how to block someone on Roblox, how to block someone on Instagram. You can go through a report, and do that very quickly. And then after that, block that person. Get that person blocked so you can't see their stuff, you can't be messed by with, or they can't mess with you. Very quickly, you can do that. Tell an adult. It's very important to tell an adult or a safe person or someone you're comfortable with. And then get off the site for the day. I've had a lot of kids tell me like, oh, I'll just go to another site or I'll play another video game if people keep bothering me. I had one kid said that he changed his IP address so he was in a different country where that other person couldn't get him, but he really wasn't in a different country. It was just his VPN location. So, kids know how to kind of change these things to stay away from these bullies. And then I will not read this whole thing, but there's some very strict laws in the state of Illinois against bullying, and pretty much it comes down to that if it interferes with one's education, even if it's happening outside or inside the school, that the school can intervene. So if cyberbullying or digital abuse is happening outside of the school, but that kid is scared to go to school, it's affecting their homework, their tests, their life, this is definitely something to reach out to the school about, the social workers, and start that conversation, because that's what they're there to help with. Digital abuse, as I said, and digital bullying is very sneaky bullying. It's not where a kid's walking in with a black eye. It's where a kid is starting to feel sad and distant and disconnect. And as we saw in the video, unfortunately, sometimes kids don't share and they get into a deep depression and might do things to hurt themselves or harm themselves. So we always have to kind of check in and make sure that they're doing okay with that. And I wanted to just highlight briefly about Turning Point while I'm here, since that is where I work. So just a reminder that we do have a 24-hour hotline when it comes to any intimate partner violence. If that comes from a boyfriend or girlfriend or family or anything like that, please give us a call 24/7 in Spanish or English to talk to us. We have emergency shelter, counseling, all these different pieces. When it comes to our counseling services, it wouldn't just be for bullying, but if there is abuse going on at home or past abuse, we can definitely talk to the kid and work through all those different pieces. And then, as I mentioned, my team does the outreach and prevention, and these are things we're bringing out to the school to make sure the kids know about bullying and cyber safety as well. And then my contact information is up now, so this is my email. You guys can feel free to email me. My email is also on our website. And if you have any other questions about the information, feel free to reach out. And that is it for tonight, unless there's any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Elissa. Wonderful, yet again, our first repeat presenter. So happy to have you here with us this evening. The only question I got was a message about, hold on, can I condense this for a second? Maybe it's two questions, but we'll start with one.
Those are great. Yeah.
As a parent, how can I best set up my child's phone to be the most protected as possible?
Awesome. Yeah, great question. So a couple different things I would do. First off, before I downloaded any apps, and if you have already, that's okay, go through the privacy settings and make sure that the locations are off when it comes to apps. A lot of apps automatically track your location all the time, so turn those off. Make sure that any of those apps aren't collecting extra data. If your payment information is on there as a parent, you can actually do a parent lock, so they have to have your approval to use that payment. Sometimes parents just put their card on and realize that their kid's buying like all the apps that cost money. Making sure that you're having conversations about the phone too, like, hey, this is a special privilege. I'm really excited for you to have this, but let's talk about safety. Let's talk about what to share on this phone. That video would be great to kind of start that conversation. And then when it comes to downloading apps, I have a lot of parents that make sure that any app their child downloads, free or paid, that they're having a conversation with their parent of why they want this app, what this app will do, what they're looking for on it, and then kind of talking about each app individually. As you saw from that, apps are so different, so we have to make sure to kind of know which one we want to use. And then when it comes into each app, as I mentioned, there's like a YouTube Kids. I think there's some other kid versions that they've been releasing, and I apologize, I haven't kept up on them as much, but sometimes they have kids or youth versions of apps so that they're not as expansive as our adult version. So kind of look out for that. And then really have conversations with them too around that it is a special privilege, so they need to make sure that they're not, if they're not being safe or they're not doing the right things, that this is something that can be taken away or we can take breaks from it. And then one other thing I would mention is that one thing that my cousin did, which I thought was great, she had a time on the internet in the house that everyone got kicked off of the internet at a certain time of night, because if they have their cell phone in their room, maybe they're sitting there scrolling a little too late. So those are some of the things that I would recommend to kind of start off.
We might have to invest on that for Sunday morning at 10 a.m. We'll see. Just kidding. Just kidding. I don't have any other questions, but if people watching this later want to ask Elissa questions, you can put them in the chat. You can shoot me an email, and I'll forward them all on. But thank you. A reminder for next month, September 12th, we'll be back on our normal day, barring technological meltdown again. That'll be at 6:30 again. Emily Phillips from New Hope Counseling Services will be with us to talk about teen mental health. So hope you can join us for that. And let us close this evening in a word of prayer. Holy God, we give you thanks for the wonderful blessings and gifts and goodness that can be shared on social media. And we ask that you help us to use those things to help people, to create safe spaces and networks and to reach more people in good ways. Help us to stand up to cyberbullying and report some of those negative things that Elissa was teaching us about this evening, and just continue to help us use this as a tool for good. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Cool. We're good.